Okay, let's see now.
Psst. Psst. Hello? I'm talking to you.
What? Are you talking to me?
Yeah, you. Why do you keep ignoring me?
I've been kind of busy.
Busy with what?
There was all those memory bears for my niece.
So?
And then there was all those cushions that I made for, my friend who's a nutritionist because I trade for all my supplements.
And those projects are done now, yes?
Yeah.
So get your butt up out of that chair and come over here.
Right. Okay. Hello, and welcome to Tears of Joy Creative. Today, we're going to be talking about those things that we like to avoid, things that are hiding in our sewing room closet. So welcome to my sewing room closet. In here, I have my serger and my cover stitch machine. This has pattern making supplies, crafting supplies, and my next project. This is where I keep all of my scraps. This is a rack of hopefuls. It is brand new fabric that is bagged up, and each one has a pattern to go with it. And so there are many projects hiding away in this rack. But what I'm really here to talk to you about today is this right here. And this is a bunch of clothing that I have purchased from thrift stores, yard sales. I think there might even be something brand new in there. And they're waiting for me to try them on, make them fit, or turn them into something new. Some of these have been hiding in here for quite a few years. So today I'm going to face reality, try them all on, and see what needs to be done.
And up first is this cute black and white floral print dress that I really like. It's just a bit too big in the top, so I'm going to take it in down the sides to the waist and deepen the front bust darts. And that looks much better already. Next up is this black and white textured skirt that is way too tight across my tummy. So I'm going to lift it up all the way around, taking several inches off the top, and use the extra fabric to extend the waistband, which will make it much more comfortable to wear. This top was one of my favorite finds at the thrift store. It's a Vera Wang, but it's an extra large, so I'm going to take it up at the shoulders and all down the sides. Then reset the sleeves for a very stylish top. This thing, well, I loved it when I found it, but after staring at it for a good 15 minutes, I decided the only thing I loved about it was the sleeves, so I'm going to save those for some other project. Now my first thoughts for this skirt were to lift it like I am with the black and white one, but after fussing and fussing with it, I've decided it needs to become something else. I'm going to see if I can make this tailored jacket. I doubt I have enough for the sleeves, but I'm going to give it a shot. These pants are brand new. They're from Costco, and I knew when I bought them I would have to take in the waist, but I am not loving this color anymore. So they're gonna get donated. Yes, this old project. I've been avoiding it because it was supposed to be a remake of this top I found on Pinterest, but it never came out right, so it's going to go. These two garments I found at a yard sale, and I'm not going to try them on because I want to turn them into an overall dress with the white jeans on top and the purple print turned into a skirt. Kind of like this dress, just not with the pickups. This last and final project has been in my sewing closet for probably 4 years. It used to be a jacket, and I fell madly in love with this quilted velvet beauty. I have always wanted to turn it into some kind of a skirt. How I'm going to do that, I'm not quite sure, but I am bound and determined to get this project done.
So that wasn't so bad. I'm actually very relieved after going through all those garments, and I took some things off my plate to do. Thumbs up for the headspace. So now it's on to the sewing, and I'm going to do the easiest first, the alterations.
And that begins with taking in the sides and lower bust darts on the floral print dress. First, I measure how much I'm taking in down the sides and write it all down, marking everything with chalk. This dress is very easy to alter because it doesn't have a lining, only a facing, which I don't have to take apart at the armhole because the side is one continuous seam. I'm only lifting the seam allowance at the waist because I'm taking in the sides down to 0 at the waist. And here's what I'm taking out of the sides and the changes to the bust darts. I then line up where the facing is joined to the armhole and sew down the sides. Now that my adjustments are made, I'm going to serge off about half what I took in down the sides and clip the curve on the bust darts so it will curve under my bust line when I'm wearing it. And what a difference a few simple alterations make in the fit of this dress. Now I can reattach the facing at the armhole and sew down the waist seam. There is, however, one more thing I need to fix on this dress. When I move around, the hook and eye at the top comes undone, so let's change that. Time to get out the button box. This looks like a good one. So off comes the hook and eye, and on goes the new button. When hand sewing, I always use 4 threads in my needle and knot it twice. To make a crochet loop, you stitch out through the back, and again, one more time to secure it. Then back through again, but this time, keep the loop loose. With your index finger and thumb, reach through the loop and grab the threads and pull it tight. And then keep repeating until you get about 1 inch in length or so. Then you can check to see if it's long enough to loop around your button by holding one end in place. If it is, stitch through the loop and pull it tight. Stitch back through the fabric and secure it in place. Then you want to stitch through the end of the chain to the fabric. This way you know it's secure. And now my dress is all done. And now for the skirt. I'm shortening it 2 inches all the way around at the top, so off comes the waistband first. You will see in most of my videos, I like and recommend using razor blades to take things apart. I find they are much faster than a seam ripper, and as long as it's sharp, you can't go wrong. Since I'm shortening the skirt from the top, I must move the zipper down the same amount so the opening is large enough to go past my hips. So I remove the zipper, as well as the lining, and now I can cut off the 2 inches from the top of the skirt and the lining. Then go back and stitch 2 inches below the zipper opening in the skirt and lining to secure it, and then open up the seam for the zipper. Cutting the skirt from the top makes the opening bigger, so let's do a quick fitting to see how much I need to readjust the waist to fit me. I am much happier with the way this fits as well as the length. On the zipper side, I press under what needs to be taken in and stitch the other side after marking it with chalk. And voila! It fits so much better. So do you know what the first rule is when sewing in an invisible zipper? Pressing the teeth flat with an iron. And yes, I use a regular foot to sew on my invisible zipper because it keeps the teeth flat and you can stitch right in the ditch. To learn more tips and tricks for sewing in invisible zippers, click the video link below in the description box. Now I switch to my zipper foot when reattaching the lining to the zipper. Okay, time to reconnect the lining at the waist, and I did not take in the side waist of the lining. Instead, I'm just pleating the extra fullness to make it fit. I'm also changing the waistband just a little bit, but hey, that's my prerogative since this is my skirt. I want to have an extension on the one end so the waistband overlaps when it fastens. So after sewing on the waistband, I fold the front side over, stitch the end in place, and turn it right side out. On the back end, I basically do the same thing, closing the end and pivoting to stitch back towards the zipper. Trim off the end, turn it right side out, and now I have a little extension piece. I then finish the waistband by folding it over and stitching in the ditch. Lastly, I'm using a skirt hook and bar as a closure. I think it makes for a nice, clean, finished look. And now my skirt is all done. On to the final alteration, the Vera Wang top. I'm taking up the shoulders a good 3 inches and down the sides roughly 4 inches. So the first thing I need to do is remove the sleeves by undoing the serger stitching, which is pretty easy. A serger stitch is sewn with 2 looper threads and either 1 or 2 needle threads. To release it, you need to pull the needle threads out. Then your looper threads will come right apart. No cutting of threads and no mess. Anytime you alter the shoulders of a garment, you need to stitch from the armhole to the neckline because the back of the neckline will always be higher. And once the shoulders are adjusted, you can then cut down the back of the neckline. But first, I have to release the neck binding. To do that, I take out the top stitching, which in this case is sewn by using a chain stitch machine. You just undo a couple of stitches on the front, which should release the chain thread on the back. Then, just as you did for the sleeves, remove the serger threads from the binding. Now I can take up the shoulders and take in the sides by using my serger machine. To cut down the back neckline, I fold the garment in half and cut out a scoop. So let's try it on and see how it fits now. Very nice, and looks so much better. Now I'm sure you're thinking to yourself that these sleeves need to be taken in, that it will not fit this armhole. But I can assure you it will, because I tried on the sleeves and I do not want them to be any tighter. So to make them fit, I line up the underarm seam and the shoulder seam with the center of the sleeve, stretching the armhole to ease in the fullness of the sleeve, and use my serger machine to sew it together. Lastly, now that I have cut down the back neckline, I can reattach the binding. I do this on my serger machine and top stitch it down. And now my top is done.
Well, part 1 is done, the alterations. And I'm really happy with the way these turned out. Now I have 3 new garments that I can add to my wardrobe to wear. But now it is time for the upcycling part of this video. So let's get started.
And I'm going to start by making the overall dress. So let's take these jeans apart. I made this overall dress about a year ago by taking existing overalls and adding the black velvet skirt to it. So I'm going to use it as my pattern because I really like the way that it fits. This is one of the easiest ways to remake existing garments we already have that fit well. To make the straps, I press under approximately 3/8 of an inch for a double fold. I'm using a heavier jeans thread in my needle to sew a double row of stitching down both sides. And I do the same thing for the sides of the back panel. After I attach the straps, I serge off the ends and clip the center point so it will lay flat for when I turn under the ends to sew through all the bulky seams. I would also recommend that you use a heavy jeans needle when sewing through these thick layers. I use a commercial sewing machine and it does a pretty good job sewing through the thicker seams. On the front, I start with the top flap and down the sides with lots more rows of double stitching. That looks about right. Now before I can sew under the bottom flap, I found that I needed to go back and open up the side seams so I could sew down the bottom flap first and then restitch the sides. Time for the front pocket, and I'm making mine a double pocket. Something like this, with lots of double rows of stitching, of course. Before I can pin on the skirt and do anything with it, I've gone ahead and sewn one side of the skirt together at the waist, And I now need to add all of the hardware. By that, I mean all the rivet buttons and make the straps functional. For this, you will need an awl to punch the holes in the fabric and a hammer. To make the straps functional, you just have to understand how to weave them in and out of the hardware pieces. I use an adjustable buckle as well as an overall buckle that comes with a rivet. One end goes in and through the adjustable buckle first, then in and through the overall buckle. Back up underneath the strap in the adjustable buckle, fold the end under, and stitch it to the inner strap. And my overalls are looking pretty good. Can't even tell these were made from a pair of jeans if I do say so myself. As you might have noticed, I'm only doing one buttonhole because only one side of the waist is going to function. One nice thing about my machine is this handy-dandy automatic buttonhole maker. It's just being a pain in the butt because of the extra thickness on the seams. Now I can finally work on the skirt, and I've decided to cut off the sleeves and close up the one side. From here, I can pin it onto the top to see if this is going to work the way I see it in my brain. And I can already see these straps need to be much shorter, but I am happy with the overall look with the skirt pinned onto the top. Most of the skirts I wear are around 26 inches long, so I'm starting with that measurement and cutting off the top of the shirt. Then I serge the edge and basically line up the center front, back, and sides, and then make 2 pleats under the printed area where the extra fabric is. Just like this. I think the pleats look pretty good where I have them placed. And finally, I can sew the 2 together and finish up the opening with some snaps. And project number 1 is done. So there was something that I never noticed till I had laid this jacket on the floor to take a picture of it, and that was just how the color blocking was laid out on the panels. My first initial thoughts for this project was to take the sleeves and fill in the armhole areas, but after noticing the different color blocking areas, I decided to flip the 2 panels on the left around to have the purple on the top. What kept bothering me though was the fact that the floral print was not even, so I decided to take everything apart to try to make one panel of fabric, which seemed to work, but yet was still too much patchwork going on. And after sewing and pinning different combinations together, when I held it up and wrapped it around me, I looked very fat in it, and it was not pretty at all. So it has died. That's right. No more red floral velvety velour print project. That's okay. It needed to go away. After studying it and messing with it, I realized it just was a project that wasn't going to work out at all. Which brings me to the last and final project, this skirt. Now, in order to make this jacket here, it needs to be cut on the straight, and this is cut basically on the bias. Now, if you turn it sideways, you will get fabric that's on the straight, and I can take this apart and piece it together and make a larger piece of fabric so that I can cut the pieces out of, but I'm still not going to have enough. That is until today when I went shopping in my own stash. For you see, in my cabinet, I have a bunch of garments that I have purchased from thrift stores because I loved the fabric. I'm just not going to wear them as clothes to be used in future projects. And 2 of the things that I found was this really cool red corduroy shirt that I'm going to use for the pleat insert on the back of the jacket, as well as the inside flap of the front. So it will be a little pop of color if it shows through when the jacket will be open. And I found this very cool textured dress that has lots of fabric that I'm going to use for the sleeves. And I think between all of this and these, I'm going to have enough to put together this jacket, but that's going to be for a future project. So let's do a recap. I started with 9 garments, and when I tried them all on, 3 went away immediately. 3 of them I altered, and so now I have some new clothes in my wardrobe to wear. The other 3 projects, well, one became a garment, one died and went away, and the other one is now on hold for a future video. And that's because I need to make a mock-up first, as I have never used that particular pattern before, and I only have so much fabric to work with. I do feel a big sense of accomplishment and relief for going through all those garments and getting them out of my closet. I don't know about any of you, but I tend to hold on to open-ended projects for a really long time. And this year I decided, not just in my sewing room life, but in other areas of my life, to finally tackle some of these projects. And I will have to say that they weren't as difficult or challenging as I thought they were. I've also learned that when I do that and I take the time to go through these projects and either complete them or let go of them, new things are now able to come into my life. Now, I don't know what kind of a sewist you are who's watching this video. You might like to take brand new garments or garments that you find from thrift stores and alter them to fit you, or you like to start from scratch and work with patterns. I tend to fall into the category of altering garments to fit me because that's what I used to do professionally. But I have a strong desire to work with patterns. I just need to learn how to make patterns fit me better and how to adjust them for my size. But I'm sure whatever category you fall into, there are projects that you have hiding away in your sewing room closet that you need to revisit. Take a good look at them. Look at what inspired you to tackle this in the first place. And maybe you can find the inspiration to either complete the project or to let go of it. Either way, it's really important that we face reality and tackle these projects so that new things can come into your life. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned as the sewing madness continues.